The Empire's stormtroopers were the backbone of the Imperial regime that focused on overwhelming numbers. But this beckons the question, why didn't the Empire just use droids? So for this video we're going to say that the Empire chooses to retire its clones as they did in our timeline. However, as opposed to recruit stormtroopers, they used a huge amount of factories that they'd won over from the Separatists into making their own cybernetic army. And it makes a lot of sense. As we discussed in a previous video, the Empire, unlike the Republic, focused on overwhelming numbers as opposed to elite training, and droids were a better option for this than humans. They're utterly obedient and would be relatively cheap to produce, considering they already had the means to as plunder from the Clone Wars. So within say a year, the Empire would have a monumentally huge army. Now what sort of droids the Empire would have is difficult to say. Now for our theory, we're going to say that the Imperial battle droids are a bit more advanced than the Separatist ones, with a variation of equipment, etc. But it's a very large army, and that's the key point. Now, with this huge army, the Empire is able to lay claim to both the Republic and CIS, flooding cities, ships, and strategic strongpoints across the galaxy. Now, there'd be far more droids than there were stormtroopers, and when there was trouble with insurgencies and rebellions, fallen troops can quickly be replaced without the need for training. This was an issue that the Empire did have, replenishing the ranks of their stormtrooper legions, but this wouldn't be a problem with droids. Also, the droids would have no issue interpreting orders. While stormtroopers could potentially hold opinions or potentially refuse orders, droids don't. If droids were ordered to do something, they do it, no matter how atrocious or morally wrong. And this would play well into the notorious tactics that the Empire did use. Ultimately, droids would be very useful for the Empire. They needed swarms of mindless drones, and droids fill this role perfectly. But there's a problem. These droids, which would be enforcing Sidious's brutal regime on all manner of worlds. And the problem with this is that no one would want to sympathise with the Empire. It would be seen as not protection, but occupation. You see, stormtroopers were people at the end of the day. Granted, they were nearly all humans and were often ruthless, but they were fellow citizens of the Empire. This created the illusion that the galaxy and the Empire were one entity, that people liked the Empire, and the Empire made the galaxy safe. But droids don't. Droids are mindless machines, foreign, and if they're the ones who are holding order, destroying insubordinate citizens and keeping the peace, then it's easy to see how animosity between the Empire and its citizens would come about. This was a great issue for the CIS during the Clone Wars as well. Basically, people don't like living under the boot of an outside power, and that's what droids would be seen as. As well as this, since droids aren't sentient, many people who opposed the Empire but were pacifists would also be willing to fight against the droids, and essentially in my opinion the rebellion would have their ranks flooded to fight the Imperials. But this doesn't mean that the Imperials lose, it just means the war is more devastating. The Empire can refill their ranks with utterly obedient droids, and the rebels would fight but would have increased numbers. And for this reason, the war is likely to last far longer and be far more brutal than it was in our timeline. But what do you think? Would droids be good or bad for the Empire, and who would win in the war? Thanks for watching, please like and sub for more content, and follow me on Twitter at The Lore Guide for regular updates. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.